Hello, everyone. It's Paul again with New Jersey Recovery and Wellness. Thank you so much for continuing to hang out with us as we continue to commemorate National Recovery Month. Each and every day, we're talking about how to support a person in your life who you know and love who has a substance use disorder or is in early recovery. Let's check out day 25 of our 30-part series. Explore other addictions. Addiction does not live in a vacuum. People with substance use disorders commonly experience other mental health conditions and likewise commonly experience symptoms of other compulsive behaviors. When considering making a change in their use of substances, being aware of the potential for other compulsive or addictive behaviors can be important. Through decades of research and literature, we understand that engaging in one compulsive behavior set, like substance use, may make a person more prone to engaging in other compulsive behavior sets because of how the behavior engages the reward pathway in the brain. Once the brain is wired for addiction, other behavior sets may follow suit and take on a compulsive life of their own. How do you support a person in your life who has a substance use disorder or in early recovery? Explore other addictions. When we hear the word addiction, we typically think of drugs and alcohol, a physical substance that's mood altering that enters into the body. It changes our brain chemistry and increases or decreases the flow of our neurotransmitters, translating to the experience of the high or the buzz. Drugs, however, are not the only things that make these changes in our brain. Just about anything that can be rewarding in nature can cause some of these changes, only on a much smaller scale. However, if we compulsively start to engage in these behaviors, we can see how people can remain stuck in these loops of what eventually becomes self-defeating behavior or addiction. This is what we commonly refer to as a process addiction. Today, we're going to talk about the most notable process addictions you may need to be aware of as you go ahead and supporting your loved one in their recovery process. First issue of note here is gambling. Now, there's many forms of gambling, all of which, if compulsive in nature, can lead a person into some considerable and in rare cases, irreversible damage, financially, legally, and considering physical safety. I want you to keep in mind the following: casino gambling, sports betting, card games, going to the racetrack, betting on the ponies, lottery, dice games, scratch-offs, and even bingo, where we're putting money down. You can also consider individuals that have a hard time with money on the stock market, particularly trading options, a more high-risk version of using the market. There's also the ever-evolving area of esports or electronic sports. This involves gaming, where individuals can wager money on video games. If your loved one's gambling habit is creating a problem in their life, it's going to be important to address this sooner rather than later. Talking about gaming, we want to talk about gaming as an addiction in and of itself. And this goes far beyond the nostalgia of a parent yelling at their child to turn off those damn video games. Gaming disorder is a recent diagnostic classification identified by the World Health Organization. So no, not everyone who enjoys playing video games has a problem. However, when their interaction with gaming begins to impact their quality of life and interfere with life goals or major role obligations, we have something that we need to talk about. Discuss perceptions of healthy limits with gaming and see if your loved one can follow some of those agreed upon limits. Next up, I want to talk about technology. Think about screen time. I know it's become more of a topic of conversation for parents of young children and teens, as well as a topic for educators. But monitoring time on technology can be important for some people, especially those that are pursuing recovery of some sort. People with tech dependence may be seen with a phone or other device on hand, more frequently interacting with the screen than with a person, and feeling anxiety or discomfort when they don't have access to their screens. Sleep patterns tend to be significantly impacted, leading some to experience insomnia, which in turn is going to impact physical health as well as mental health. Current times are certainly different, and we now rely on technology for many things, but really, how much time is spent on screens? Is your loved one far off from what might be considered a norm? Might be time to have a conversation. We also need to be sure to talk about sex. Sex addiction is no joke. It's a real thing, and compulsive sexuality can look like a person masturbating multiple times a day in inappropriate or risky situations. It can also manifest in compulsive consumption of pornographic material in a way that impacts their relationship with others, jeopardizes their job or other major obligations, or detracts from their interactions with their sexual partner. Sex addiction can also lead a person to compulsively step outside of their relationship with their significant other. A person may numb out through sexual activity or feel overwhelming guilt and shame after said activity, however, is unable to interrupt their cycle of acting out in the future. Separate from sex, we also need to talk about love and relationships. Sometimes we can become dependent on intense emotional states. One of the key players here is love. Do you see your loved one jumping to and from romantic pursuits rather rapidly? Do they tend to fall for another person rather quickly without having much time to get over a previous partner? Are there statements along the lines of them just not being okay unless they are in a relationship? If this is the case, what's basically being said here is that they do not believe that they can be on their own. They need to have another person in order to feel stable themselves. They're saying that they depend on a love interest in order to feel safe. This is dependency. Dependency is addiction. Some people may struggle with their relationship with food. There are those who restrict eating intentionally. Others who may consume an exorbitant amount of food in one sitting, while yet even others may purge or intentionally induce vomiting, take diuretics, or compulsively exercise in order to compensate for the considerable intake of food. Whether it's an eating disorder or disordered eating, a relationship with food can be addictive in nature. If you're seeing any disturbing eating patterns for your loved one, or if your loved one looks like they don't eat or potentially hides when they eat, it might be something to check into as well. And finally, I want to touch on spending for a moment. The simplest way to explain the concept of a spending compulsion is the idea of feeling a need to fill that hole's never filled. Commonly, there's guilt associated with spending afterwards. However, the cycle perpetuates to simply address this need for fulfillment, the need to feel whole. Again, people with substance use disorders or in early recovery may have more going on than just the history of concerning substance use. On some occasions, the substance use may coincide almost exclusively with another compulsive behavior. We may learn about other compulsive behaviors once we can see more clearly with the substance use out of the way, or once a person starts to pursue recovery from their substance use disorder, we may start to see other compulsions begin to take root. Supporting a loved one with a substance use disorder may require being informed and aware of other process addictions, with the understanding that continuing to engage in the other compulsive behavior may lead a person back to relapse or recurrence with their substance use. Be compassionate, be informed, and support your loved ones. Seek help. thank you again for staying with us as we commemorate National Recovery Month by talking about how to support a loved one, a person who you know and love, who has a substance use disorder or is in early recovery. If you liked what you saw here, please do click that like and subscribe and ring that bell so you can get notifications of other videos that come up in this series or other videos in general on this channel. And please do share this information with anyone that you think may benefit from it. From New Jersey Recovery and Wellness, thank you so much. We'll catch you next time.